There's no fucking update for it. Hey guys, welcome to Fantasy Effect episode 76. We got the Preseason Revelations. Please like, comment, and subscribe. We got a big announcement in the Fantasy Effect world. So we are going to be starting our own Patreon, and I'm going to kind of kick that over to McSpanky to explain what's been going on behind the scenes here.
Let's go. Yeah, sorry, that was the best start to a show I think we've ever
It
had.
was. Please clip it.
Okay, so for the Patreon, basically there's going to be two different kind of tiers. The first one's going to give us access to we've put together a bunch of rankings that are cross positional for both Dynasty and Devy, and the first tier will get you access to all of our rankings, and we're going to be updating those constantly. It kind of compares our rankings to where Dynasty Daddy has their rankings too, so you can kind of see where we have things different. And then additionally, and this is kind of the cool part, so the second tier, behind the scenes, I've been building this tool probably for the last year and a half. It's kind of been code named Project McSpanky, which has been fun. So all right, so basically what it is it will load in all of your leagues from Sleeper. It does a cool thing where it will read all of your Sleeper leagues scorings and settings, and then it adjusts players projected points per game, their perceived value in those leagues based on your individual league scoring. So it's not just a static value. And then with that, we have a custom trade calculator that weighs your trades based on kind of the values that we have set, as well as the values from we made a market value where I pulled in different dynasty rankings from across different sites. That way you can kind of get a pulse on where the dynasty market values certain players, and then you can compare things kind of between what we think and what everyone else thinks too, so you can make sure you're getting good value. One of the cool things too is we have this trade partner feature, which is kind of new, and I haven't seen this anywhere else. So let's say Holler and I, we play in a lot of leagues together, and let's say we're doing the pod, or you're listening to a pod and you hear Holler say hey, I really don't like this player. You can load in your name, your sleeper name, his sleeper name, and then you can see all the leagues you have in common, and then you can search for exactly that player that you think he's wrong about, and then you can go see where he has that player in leagues that you play in together, so you can easily start doing some trade negotiations. That way you don't have to start searching manually through Sleeper. And then there's a couple other cool tools in there too. We have a draft assistant that helps you in startups and rookie drafts. It gives you kind of the best players available, as well as kind of how many players at each position have been drafted. So you can kind of see how the league's valuing certain players or positions. And if you're doing a startup, pre-rookie draft, it keeps track of the amount of kickers taken. So you can kind of easily see what rookie pick you're at too, which is pretty sweet. So more to come there too, but probably looking towards the end of the month, we'll show some more stuff, and I'll do a little demo for it too. But really excited about it, and hopefully you guys will enjoy it.
Yeah, so I used the draft assist in our live draft in Canton, and I felt like it worked really, really well. There's Spanky asked me to use it, so there's some kinks obviously, but we got some time. But honestly, it worked really, really well. It was cool. You go through and Sleeper has its own ADP, but it was really cool to have that best player available that's specific to your scoring. So I think it was very, very helpful. And I think one thing that it will be really cool about is rookie drafts. Obviously it's not going to have their exact projections in there right super early, but I think it will help a lot. So it was super cool, and I think it's only going to get better.
Yeah, the kicker thing is awesome because, if you ever do a kicker replacement draft, and what a pain it is to go in there and start counting on that draft board, oh my gosh, which kicker are we on now? I personally hate doing that. I love to do a kicker replacement draft. I hate counting the kickers. That's for sure.
100%.
Also our tiers will be involved in the Patreon too. I know Spanky's got a whole bunch of super awesome cool stuff, but we'll have the basic tiers too that people know and love to look at. Should we hop into the news here?
Yeah, let's do it.
It's a big news day. It's kind of a sad news day as well.
Yeah.
We have JJ McCarthy with a meniscus injury. Was it a tear on his?
It was a meniscus tear, and then what they said is they don't know kind of what the extent of it is until they actually cut him open for surgery, right? So there's
Oh,
two
okay.
different kind of options. They can either do like a trim, which is like a 4 to 6 week recovery, which puts them at a timeline to return kind of at the end of September, which wouldn't be horrible. And then there's a meniscus repair, which is 4 to 6 months, which is basically out for the season, which would definitely suck. I guess he played really well this past, I think it was Saturday or Sunday. And I guess he was complaining about some knee soreness. He didn't practice on Monday. This was right after there was reports saying that he was going to get more run with the first teamers after that performance. So of course this happened. So that kind of bites. But knowing that he is a rookie and his draft capital, even if he's out for the whole season, does this affect your guys' value on him at all? And I know I'm the JJ McCarthy lover, so I'm going to let you two answer that before.
So I personally think his value is going to stay the same. I think it could have gone up if he started. I think if it's the 4 to 6 week recovery, I think it's kind of exactly the timeline that I thought was going to happen. And kind of, unless he really lit it up every preseason game that he played, I do still think that they were going to roll out Sam Darnold in the beginning, and then it will. I think you kind of said it today in the Discord, but it will depend on how the team was doing. But I just think they couldn't leave him off the field like that long. I think he's a very good player, but I do think he does need some more reps. You know, like he played a very specific game with Michigan. They ran the ball a ton. You know, it's kind of more of a game manager there with Harbaugh. So I think that it really was going to take some time. So this is a big blow, and because I think he really needed those reps, but I don't think it's going to change his overall dynasty value.
I agree with you, Holler. Like right now, I have him tiered as a late first, and I can't see him dropping below that without ever stepping onto the field. So worst case scenario, you know, he sits in that Michael Penix range. And you know, we have. I know you hate that comp, but it could be. From a value perspective, though, it's not always the worst thing in the world. For some, like it stinks that he's injured and everything, but he's young enough. Darnold only has the 1-year contract. He has Kevin O'Connell. He has JJ. He has Addison. Maybe Aaron Jones is out of town, but he gets a healthy TJ Hawkinson if he is to, you know, miss a full year. So there's a lot of things working in his favor too, as well. So I don't think he ever drops below really that late first value, especially with the quarterback class coming in 2025. As of right now, it's not looking so hot.
For sure.
Agreed.
That said, Ron, you in particular, would you try to go out and trade for JJ McCarthy now? Let's say he comes out and he's out for the year. Would you try to get him at a discount, or would you feel comfortable throwing a late first, knowing that the quarterback class kind of bites right now?
It's going to be heavily team dependent. I would be more apt to do it on a straight up rebuild, where I'm really looking to get some players that could increase in value. Gotcha. And that's a definite possibility for McCarthy. And if I could get him at a discounted value on a team that's already rebuilding where I don't want the points, I think that's kind of the perfect place to target him. Yep. Maybe most of my rebuilders they're probably one weak spot or another. Usually they're a rebuilder because they have bad quarterback rooms. So I don't think it's the worst bet to take if the team's already bad. You know, what could it hurt?
For sure.
Yeah. So like I was just looking at my rankings. I have them in tier 9, which is and up at QB 17, which I probably will change that now. A couple of guys that I have him above are Drake May and Jared Goff, and so I'll probably move Jared Goff up ahead of him. But I think the biggest thing is that like he was going in the mid to late first, and so if you were a contender, right, and you had him, I think that would have been a huge help for you if your QB2 was not the greatest, right? And so say you had a Jared Goff, right? But I think there was more upside for JJ McCarthy than there is Jared Goff in the fantasy realm. So I just think it's kind of a pretty big blow for any of those guys that took him in the late first. And, you know, we're hoping that could be a big bump for my QB2. And so kind of looking at my tiers, I think a really good idea would be to move JJ McCarthy if you are a contender for, you know, a Jared Goff, if that can get done. Or even like if you're looking for a player, like I have him in my ninth tier, and if you could get yourself, you know, maybe I don't know if it can get done, but like a Kenneth Walker or Xavier Worthy or Debo Samuel or something like that. I don't really think he can get done, but that's just something if you're a contender, like looking up and kind of moving that guy because he's not going to get you any points.
Sure.
And you might need to add obviously to JJ McCarthy with those players I said, but I just think that one right there is it's probably not, especially if
for me,
say you're rebuilding and you have one of those older players and you don't want those points. I mean, I think I would do it. I'll probably get some deals now, but I think I would do it. Right? I think I would move.
Always.
I would move JJ McCarthy, or I would acquire JJ McCarthy to get those points off my team.
Sure. And that's fair enough. I mean, that's kind of what Dynasty is, cycling through your roster and making sure you're staying young and staying competitive throughout. Sometimes it's just not your year. You got to take a look at that roster and be like, I don't think this one's winning anything. As optimistic as we want to be about every single player, like some of these teams ain't winning. Some of our shots aren't, hitting.
And
so
it's better to know that earlier rather than later, trying to make moves and trying to struggle along, only to lose out on draft capital for a future year and miss the playoffs. And I've done that before, and it is not fun.
No, it is not.
Totally.
By week 4, make them decisions. That's what I like to do.
Yes, for sure.
So then this one makes me super sad is Jahmyr Gibbs hamstring injury. As of right now, we don't know the severity of the hamstring injury, but like just me as a person, I'm a 5 on the panic scale just because I don't have the grade of the hamstring strain right now. I just heard about Terrigan Arnold and Ennis Rakestraw, their first and second round picks from this past year. They just updated us on those injuries. So I would expect possibly we hear tonight about Gibbs. Really, if you want to be up to date on any Lions news, follow like Colton Pouncey or Justin Rogers. Those two are the guys that are going to give you the true answers because somebody was out there screaming that he tore his ACL yesterday.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to bring up is like
just listen to like the smart beat writers that are, with the Lions or whatever. And the Lions ask that they do not give any injury updates or speculate on injury until they speak to Dan Campbell, speak to the coaching staff about said injured players. And then they're allowed to, talk about the injury basically on Twitter and everything. So that's why there's been very minimal reporting on how bad the strain actually is. I was pretty shocked to see Schefter was the one that tweeted the hamstring strain because usually like Pouncey and Justin Rogers have that out there long before Schefter does if it's Lion stuff.
That was gonna be what I said is like just be careful what you read at this time.
Yeah,
like there's so many reports that just get thrown out there, and I saw that as well. I'm like, this is a joke. There's no way. I've never even heard that guy, and so like, just be careful what you read and like read into. I think my panic scale is probably around a 4 because I have a good amount of Jahmyr Gibbs, and so I think, and that's most of the time that's your RB1. So I just feel like if he misses any time, that's pretty rough. And they don't really have. I went out and got. I don't know how to say his first name, but last name is Vaki. I went out and got a lot of him. Shout out to Mitch. But I just think, they don't really have anybody outside of the 2. Obviously, David Montgomery will get a lot of the run if he misses any time. But outside of that, they don't, Craig Reynolds, Vaki. I think there's more upside to Vaki than anything. So I think this would be a huge, huge blow up to obviously fantasy, but the Lions in general.
Yeah, Craig Reynolds, I think, is more of a Montgomery replacement, and that he's more just kind of like a between the tackles kind of pounder. Whereas Vaki, I think, does have some athleticism. He played mostly safety at Utah, which is kind of interesting. I was looking at his stats just today, and like he played running back a little bit, and he lit it up a little bit when he got the touches he did. So that could be potentially interesting. Jahmyr Gibbs, my panic scale is probably at about sweet. We got a guest reporter on the show.
Let's go.
Panic scale will probably be at about 4, only because I think the Lions are pretty smart with their injuries, and I think the only time it can become a concern is if they try to rush him back too soon. Whereas I think last year, I mean, it kind of showed that they were willing to let him just like develop and learn the offense because at the beginning of the year he barely got any touches, right? So I think they are smart enough that they know, like, hey, we're going to make sure he gets back all the way. And when he's back, then I feel like I can trust it. They're not going to rush him out there and then have like a re-aggravate his hamstring and then cause further issues in the season. So, and I'd rather have him miss like the first, let's call it 3 games of the season, knowing that when he gets back, he's ready to roll and he's the guy that we need. Like, you can probably have someone on your bench early in the season, missing those 3 games when everyone's like mostly healthy, as opposed to 3 games in the middle of the season during bye weeks, and then there's a bunch of injuries stacking up. I think now is probably the better time to do it. So I'm not overly concerned, but it's still not, ideal, obviously.
Right. Hopefully we know by tomorrow at some point. Okay, up next we got Tyrone Tracy carted off at practice. He was put in an air cast. He put everybody in a panic as well in the world, and it just turned out to be a mild sprain, which is, it seems like teams are, almost like overcompensating for a bunch of injuries. I understand, you don't want to, hurt somebody more if it truly is a severe injury. So you have to kind of treat everything as, a major. And when you go down non-contact like that, usually it means that it is a major injury. That was the more concerning thing to me when I saw non-contact. I was like, that's not good. It looks like he's going to be
an ACL. Yeah.
He was my sometimes third, most of the time 4th round darling in my rookie drafts. I have like an outrageous amount of shares, and really when things like that happen, it's just kind of a bummer for because you think there's some upside there. So I think if he were to miss any time, it's just kind of and overall, like I said with the Lions, it's a big deal for the Giants. Their running back room is really thin. So and not good outside of what's his name? And so thank you, Singletary. And so I just think overall that's a big deal. And Eric Gray did look good, but I do think Tyrone Tracy is the number 2. He didn't play as much as Eric Gray, and to me that says kind of a big thing. And so it was. I read it today, and I was like, oh, my heart. That's such a bummer. And so when you have those guys, you just really want them to pan out, right? I got so lucky with my Puka shares, and so just overall, those are the guys you really hope pan out. But it sucks. It happens a lot.
That's the difference earlier. What I was thinking when Tyrone Tracy might have been out for the year between him and JJ McCarthy is the draft capital, right? So Tracy was a 5th round guy, whereas McCarthy was a 1st, and he's going to get his shot eventually whenever he's ready. Tracy, being with the low draft capital, if he was out, he might not ever touch the field. And so it's important for those guys to stay healthy during camp, because they really need to make an immediate impact, because they don't get as many chances. We've seen guys who are drafted in the 1st, 2nd round get chance after chance, but a 5th rounder, if you're out for the year, you might never sniff the field. You might always just be a practice squad guy at that point. So
spot on. Yeah, you want those reps.
Sam Darnold's on his 4th team.
Well, exactly. Now he's going to start. So
right. He's starting on his 4th team. Yeah. So also we have Trey Sermon with a hamstring, Marshawn Lloyd with a hamstring. I didn't see too much about either of these hamstring injuries either. Yeah. Did you guys see much about these?
I didn't get a severity on either one. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Holler. Did you get anything?
I was going to say I didn't hear much. Especially, I just saw when it happened in the game for Trey Sermon. I got an alert, and I didn't. I'm not too big in Trey Sermon. Obviously, he's probably going to be the backup, but the bigger one was Marshawn Lloyd, and I really didn't see much about him either. Yeah. I know he came out of the game, but I don't know for sure what the whole severity of it is.
Yeah, I'm with you guys, kind of blind on that, and that might just be the the whole thing that we have with hamstring injuries. It's kind of hard to totally know. I feel like Marshawn Lloyd had already dealt with something in the offseason already prior to this.
Yeah, so I just pulled up an article, and he had missed the first 6 practices with a hip injury. So, like we just talked about with Tyrone Tracy, is these rookies need to get reps in, right? So anytime they miss practice, it's not good. I do know the coaching staff really likes Marshawn Lloyd. He didn't, I think it was he was a 3rd round or 4th round draft pick. So there's still, same thing as Tyrone Tracy he's not the high draft capital, but the team likes him. And again, it just, these rookies need to get reps in. So when they get injured, it's really such a bummer.
Yeah, this definitely sets him back, and unfortunately, I think that means we're going to see a lot of, well, not a lot, but more of AJ Dillon than we probably want to, and I think we know who he is at this point, so it's not ideal.
Yeah,
Yep.
Didn't want to have to see that for another year.
I'm just reading a Packers Sports Illustrated, so whatever that is, but on the yesterday they came out and said hold on, I just had it. He's not expected to be out long. So
okay,
not terrible, but again, missing practices is not good.
Not ideal. Yeah. Okay, Malik Neighbors went down with an injury scare. It sounds like it's just an ankle sprain. He should be ready for week 1. We probably see him move pretty slowly through the rest of the off season here. If I had to bet, not really much else to do there. Josh Downs, this one kind of stinks. High ankle sprain. Somebody took him down to the ground in practice. Head coach was not happy with that guy. High ankle sprain is not great. Recovery time always seems to be long on those, and they linger for sure.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. And what the heck is with these at the Giants? Two ankle sprains, so they need to get their field figured out.
Yeah, right.
For sure.
Mike Williams came off the pup though. You guys excited for Big Mike? Yeah, I was shocked too because he tore his ACL, but wasn't it like week 2 of last year?
Was it early?
It was early,
but I don't think it was that early. Yeah, I don't remember exactly what week.
Yeah, it was earlier in the season. It was like in the first month, I think. But I think just because of his injury history and he's a little bit older, I was just a little bit surprised that because it sounded like some of the updates we got during the summer that he wasn't necessarily doing all that great. But I guess maybe that was a little misdirection. He's good to go. Now the real thing is how long do we get before he just falls in the most just Looney Tunes ass way after catching a jump ball.
30 seconds.
You should get the same treatment as Aaron Rodgers. I saw that Aaron Rodgers got a day off because it was raining.
Oh,
wish I could do that.
Exciting. It's crazy. It is.
I also
these days.
get days off because of the rain, but that's for different reasons. Neither
you work outside. That might be a little different.
I think it was on ESPN. They were just lighting up the Jets. It was funny.
Oh, I'm sure they were. This one is pretty sad. Hollywood Brown, the sternoclavicular joint dislocation. For anybody that doesn't know where that is, it is like right here on your chest. If you're watching on YouTube, pointing to it. Apparently, if it goes like back, if it dislocates back, that is worse than it dislocating out forward.
I
don't know which one he had. I was reading like a Stefania Bell tweet about it. Like back is worse, forward is good. I'm not totally certain on which one he actually had there, but he is going to be out 4 to 6 weeks, and that puts his return around week 2 to 4. Do you guys adjust him in your rankings at all?
He was already a little bit lower just because he didn't have the greatest deal, and then I think he's been slipping a little bit lower too just because I think people are realizing Rashee Rice probably isn't getting suspended to start the season, and so now it's like, well, Hollywood, that was kind of his appeal, was that he was going to be the main guy, and now I think it's Rashee Rice, right? And then I think Xavier Worthy has his role, and Hollywood's going to be kind of whatever he is. The one saving grace I think is when he's back. I don't think you're going to have to worry about any kind of performance issues, when guys come off of a knee injury or a sprain that might not be back 100%. With this, I think once you're back and ready to go, you're good to go. The kind of way he plays too is he's not exactly going out and getting a bunch of jump balls, having to extend his arms anyways. He's kind of just just drop it in the bucket for me. So I'm not really concerned. And then I might throw some feelers out there to see if I can get him maybe for a guy, maybe a tier below his current market value, just to see if I can, get a couple shares, but I'm not going to go crazy with some of these.
Sure.
So I have him right at market value. I have him at wide receiver 44. And when I ranked him, I think I kind of baked in he misses some time quite a bit. So just, he gets dinged up quite a bit. And so I think that was kind of banked in. So I wouldn't really drop him much. Maybe drop him a little bit within the tier, but not much at all. But I was worried I was talking to you guys about it, and I was just a little worried overall. Like, I think they're really
Are you?
going to lean on Rashee Rice, and I think Worthy's going to be not exactly, but I think Worthy and Hollywood Brown kind of do a little bit of the same thing.
Yeah.
And I think that they're going to, which could be good, right? But there's overall now what if Worthy and him are the same thing now. Marquise Brown loses a little bit of time. Now I think maybe Worthy's step up a little bit. And so now he's like the fourth option. So, I think we're getting a little bit behind there. And so down there at wide receiver, though, 44 through 48, really, if he gets any, like you're going to hopeful, if he gets any points, right? And so that you're hopeful and you're going to throw him in your flex. So, missing a little bit of time for him is not a big deal. Like you said, McSpanky, I think when he comes back, he's going to be back and we'll be fine. But again, like I said, I think there will be a little bit of time before he gets dinged up again, because that's kind of what he does.
Hollywood Brown or Calvin Ridley?
That's so funny you ask. It was like they're right next to each other. I think there's more upside with Ridley, right? He's their wide receiver one. Obviously, it's rough because one is tied to Will Levis, one is tied to Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
But I think Calvin Ridley has looked good in practice, and I think Will Levis has started to. I've heard some good things out of practice, right? And so I think there's more upside to Calvin Ridley. I
can see that.
But overall, to me, they're both flex options, right? I'm not going to feel super good about either of them, in one of my wide receiver spots, or even in the flex spot, I'm going to be like, hopefully he gets a touchdown. Hopefully he gets 6 catches for 70 yards, and then I'm going to be feeling good.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think I'd probably take Ridley too, but I think it's close. I actually have Hollywood quite a bit above Calvin Ridley right now, but I think I had him a little too high. So
I do too. I think I was drinking the Kansas City Kool-Aid a little bit there.
I was for sure.
Might need to do some adjustment, especially with the injury. But that being said too, like he's not overly that much higher than what the market has him at. Right now I drop him 3 or 4 spots here, and he's pretty darn close to what market has him.
Yeah.
But how
Here's
long
a good one.
Kansas City?
What'd you say?
How long's the deal in Kansas City? Is it only
1
a
year?
year?
I think it's a 1 year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So for you,
he's kind of on a prove it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know you don't like anything out of Washington, but McLaurin or Hollywood Brown?
Give me Terry.
It's funny I almost asked you that same question. I want Hollywood.
That's the same water. Like that's my tier 14 with those wide receivers. So it's
close though.
It's a coin flip either with any of those guys.
Sure. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do some Hollywood adjusting tonight. Anyway, that is kind of. Oh no, we still got more news. Brandon Ayuk is still a 49er to this moment. So he has not been traded all the days that I've been told that he's going to be traded today. Yeah, he's allegedly still. Allegedly, there is a deal in place and can be accepted at any single moment at this point in time. I feel like I've been hearing that for a month now. Anyway, CeeDee Lamb is still holding out. Jamar Chase is holding in, but Chase was not at practice today. And Zach Taylor called this a day by day kind of situation. So they must be in the middle of negotiating something to get him into the building, to get him to start to practice. Any of the holdouts worry you guys?
CD does. Ayuk, I think, will report eventually. CD feels like there's some serious tension between him and Jerry Jones. And I think eventually he reports and he plays, but I always just worry about the conditioning of some of these guys that hold out and they're not like doing anything during practice.
Sure.
Like it takes a while to get into football shape. And even these guys, like, and I'm sure they're working out like on their own and doing their own thing, but it's different. They're not going
competition's
through drills
different.
and sometimes going from, working out by yourself to all of a sudden trying to play 100% game speed can lead to, hamstring injuries, can lead to, ankle sprains or pulling something, right? And so just a little bit of worry there, nothing too severe that I'm going to move any of these guys down in rankings or panic or anything, but it's just something in the back of my mind where I'm like, I'm a little, it doesn't give me the warm and fuzzies.
Yeah. Sure. So CD's the only one that I have like a little bit of a worry there, and because Jerry does not shut his mouth, right? So He just says something else after something else, and so it's not good. But I think, like you said, at the end of the day, I think
The chickens
CD
are
will
coming
report.
home to roost today.
Yeah, I think CD will report. But my thing is, so there's so many reports out there, but at the end of the day, when the games come around, I think Ayuk will be a Steeler. And so does that do anything for you guys in rankings terms? Do we feel good about that? Do we feel
I don't feel great.
a little? Yeah, right. That's where I'm at too. I'm a little hesitant because the quarterback drop off from there is quite a bit going from San Francisco to Pittsburgh.
And it's more too, like the quarterback play obviously is a down play, but it's more the play calling. Going from Kyle Shanahan, he's one of the probably a top 3 play caller in the league, if not number 1, to Arthur Smith, who has had his moments being a play caller, but it's our most recent experience on the Arthur Smith train was in Atlanta, and it was a disaster.
Sure. And for me, I've kind of said Arthur Smith is a solid offensive coordinator, but with him, we think of it as more of like his running game is going to be really good. So I still have I worry a little bit, and going from how good that San Francisco offense is to Pittsburgh's offense, I believe that Ayuk can be a wide receiver 1, but it just that's quite a big drop off in my opinion. So I will probably have to go in there if he ends up being a Steeler, go in there and drop him down a little bit.
So
how far would you drop him?
Let me pull this up here.
Because I have him right now. I have him here with Jalen Waddle and Drake London, Tyreek Hill. I'm curious, would you move him down to Pittman, Nico, Tank Dell range? Would you go lower, to a DK Metcalf, T Higgins kind of area? Are you?
Yeah, I think so. I think I'd move him down, to that next tier.
Yeah, that's fair. I think it's only his value can really only go down because it's not like he's going to get a ton of volume passing wise in Pittsburgh, and the efficiency goes way down going from
so
Brock Purdy.
I have him as wide receiver 12, and maybe I'll drop him down to wide receiver 16. I love DK Metcalf. I'm hoping there's not much drop off here coming up, but I would drop him kind of below him in that range of Pittman, DJ Moore, T Higgins, Devonta Smith.
Sure. I was just going to try to look up real quick the rush attempt difference between San Francisco and Pittsburgh last year. If anybody can find that quickly.
Yeah, I can look. Oh.
Guys hear me talking?
But yeah, they are upset about something. So
yeah, there's probably a deer walking by.
So Atlanta, I assumed you've been in Atlanta just based on Arthur Smith being.
Oh yeah, we can do Atlanta. Yeah.
Atlanta had 522 rush attempts, whereas the 49ers had 499. So it was about the same. I mean, it's about 6s.
Okay, so efficiency probably drops off, and volume doesn't really go all that much higher. You don't really. He doesn't really have Najee and Jalen Warren are not CMC, that's for sure. Firewolf is not Kittle, and George Pickens is not Debo. So I mean, there's a world where the volume could go up just based off of the talent surrounding him. But I don't know that it's going to tick up that much to where it's a noticeable difference, especially with the like what you said. Arthur Smith's at least an average offensive coordinator, while Kyle Shanahan is top tier offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
So
and I feel like the problem with Ayuk too is that you can't really sell him right now either because everyone wants to see where he goes before they buy him. So he's valued quite a bit higher. It's kind of like that wide receiver 10 to 13 range, but you can't get anywhere near that volume for him right now that value for him because everyone's well, hold on, I got to see where he goes. And it seems like if he goes to Pittsburgh, everyone's well, we're going to move him down. So I think you're kind of stuck holding him if you have him right now. Yeah.
And I feel like right now is not the time to move him, right? Because you're going to lose on the value.
I agree. All right. Should we get into some of these preseason revelations?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So we had a couple teams jump in 3 wide receiver sets, and one of those teams was Miami, which is kind of surprising. The other one, not so surprising, is Atlanta, who's going away from the Arthur Smith offense and stepping into the Sean McVay tree, which is pretty much almost exclusively 3 wide receiver sets. it was a pretty large jump. Atlanta was at 18% in there, and they were up at 94% during the preseason game, which seems like a pretty stark change for Atlanta, getting all the options out there for Mr. Kirk Cousins.
Which, so for context, 18% was dead last in the NFL last year. So
wow,
it's and first was 95%, which was LA. So I mean, that's a pretty stark difference. The thing that I think is surprising about that and is like they don't really have the personnel to run this. Especially now that Rondell Moore just got hurt, right? So it's Kirk or Drake London and Darnell Mooney. And then I mean, the third wide receiver in those sets right now is Ray McLeod, who's not exactly. I mean, he's been a journeyman basically his whole career. And so I wonder, are they going to split Kyle Pitts out wide?
That's what I was just going to say. And have him put play Pitts out wide and Mooney in the slot. Yeah,
because I do like that then. Because
right. That's
Kyle Pitts wheels up.
Yeah. So that's exactly where. That's exactly where my head went is, that's going to be really good for Kyle Pitts. And we've already heard it before, right? We've heard it throughout the beginning of camp, and they really want to use Kyle Pitts in the as a wide receiver. So I think it's this news or this is really good for Kyle Pitts. But yeah, I was looking up their depth chart. They have Darryl Hodge, like Ray McLeod is their number 3 right now, but they have like other guys on there is Darryl Hodge, Casey Washington, James Washington. It's like all these guys I don't know. And I'm not going to say anything like, go out and get him. But I think Casey Washington is one to look for. I think he's done a good job in camp.
He's free.
But he's probably on waivers.
Yeah, he's super free. But you have to be able to beat out Raymond McLeod, in my opinion. And if you can't, then don't worry about him at all. But I think it was a bit of a bigger blow than a lot of people think for Rondell Moore to get injured for the season.
For sure.
I still think that's debatable. Anyway, speaking about free players, let's get into a guy that used to be free and is no longer free. That's Mr. Jordan Whittington, the scrappy man from Texas. 9 targets, 6 catches, 74 yards. I believe this one was on Sunday. He also could have caught another errant Stetson Bennett pass that was pretty far off the mark there, but it was going to Whittington. That was going to be another first down. I think this dude was just kind of the first down machine while he was at Texas. I liked him. I got in pretty early. That's why I say he was free. That's when I got all mine was all free, which is exciting. Sean McVay says, I just really like him. He's going to be a factor for us. I've since seen a couple people compare him to Lance McCutcheon, who has also had similar praise from Sean McVay as well.
Yeah. So what I would say is, just caution with like how much you think he's going to be useful in your lineup, right? He's a nice guy. I think I think of him more as like a cool DFS possible guy, right? So I think he should be able to beat out Demarcus Robinson. I don't know for sure, but he should be able to because I know the Rams really like Robinson as well. So, but overall, to me, the Rams, like I've told you guys before, I think that Rams offense is going to be really, really good. So I think for NFL terms and fantasy terms, I think a lot of those guys are going to be really, really good this year. And I won't get into it just now, but I think, Whittington had a really, really good game, and to have a good game with Stetson Bennett is pretty big.
He took a shot on one of those catches too, man.
Yeah. He's a good football player. And I just think if he's available in your league, go pick him up because I think there should be a game. And Cooper Kupp's probably going to miss a game here or there. And even Puka gets banged up a bit. So I'm not, by no means is he a Puka, but the Rams have been doing a really, really good job in their draft in the last couple of years. In some of those
that's when I become interested in seeing, what he really has and what McVay thinks of him is those 1 to 2 games where Puka or Cooper Kupp is not in the lineup and what they do with him and what kind of uses he gets then. And you can kind of, read the tea leaves a little bit and see his future because Cooper Kupp is no spring chicken. So, at some point he's leaving the Rams here, whether it's retirement or free agency.
So if he's available, go get him because he could be a guy that next year when I don't know how much longer Puka is under contract, Cooper Kupp is under contract. So and he's a bit older, so I think like Whittington could be somebody as a nice wide receiver too after those older guys leave.
Sure. I think for me the potential like value add here for Jordan Whittington is just he's probably going to be the wide receiver 4 in LA behind Demarcus Robinson. But like you guys said, as soon as one of those top 3 options are banged up and miss a game, Whittington, I feel comfortable. You can throw him into your kind of a flex spot during like bye weeks or during the midseason when there's injuries. And you can feel comfortable that he's in a good offense. He's going to have a good quarterback throwing him the ball, that he's not going to screw you over, and you can throw him in, especially in like a start 11, start 12 league where it's pretty deep.
Sure.
I think he's a nice stash on your bench as like a, in case of emergency, break glass kind of guy. You can throw him on your roster.
Yeah, Matt Stafford got Kenny Galladay paid, and we all saw how that worked out for New York. So if you want to see what Matt Stafford can do with just, terrible wide receivers. Anyway,
so real quick before I move on, though, kind of highlights is the big one was Blake Corum, and then also Colby Parkinson sitting. I think it was very, very big for Blake Corum. For me, if you're gonna if Sean McVay is sitting you are a. I'm not going to call Corum a starter, but yes, he is a starter, right? They're going to use both running backs, so he's going to be really useful. And to me, Blake Corum, I didn't go to a padded practice, but Blake Corum was kind of like I thought he looked really good in practice. They were using him quite a bit, even with Kyron Williams. So they're going to use that. That's going to be a really good 1-2 punch. And then I think Colby Parkinson's their tight end 1 right now. So shout out to TJ for getting a bunch of that already. But I think Colby Parkinson's not like this great guy, but Matthew Stafford targets his tight end. And so I've already talked about it. That offense is going to be good. They're going to get points scored. So Colby Parkinson could be a nice, especially in 2 tight end, could be a nice tight end.
I agree. Are you guys ready to pop into these rookie quarterback debuts?
Let's do it.
It seemed like every single quarterback popped off.
I know one who didn't.
Listen, he only played 6 snaps. Okay.
Exactly.
Give the man a break.
And he was.
They only gave Drake. Oh,
it was raining. It was also raining.
They only gave Drake May 6 snaps. We saw today that there's been murmurs that the Patriots don't want to ruin another quarterback, so they don't want to sacrifice him to the Wolves with their terrible offensive line. You can read that with what you may, and Jacoby Brissett is probably a sacrificial lamb for most of the season to let May learn until they can just no longer put Brissett on the field anymore. Everybody else, though, for the weekend did really well. Caleb Williams, 4 for 7, 95 yards, 1 rush for 13 yards. A lot of it came on that big DeAndre Swift play, but the throws that he did make were, absolute darts and everything out there. The Bills did play their starters on defense for a drive. Jaden Daniels didn't play any Jet starters. He was 2 for 3 for 45 yards. One of them, he was also checking plays, and he wasn't supposed to be checking plays, is what I saw.
Interesting.
So we'll see how that goes for him. Continue to not do what your coaches want you to do. Okay, Justin Fields. Anyway. Also,
in his defense, Cliff Kingsbury calls garbage plays. That was probably a good thing.
That's fair. That's fair. We talked about Drake May there. Michael Penix
on Drake May.
Oh god,
because I looked this up and I wanted to share it because I hate Drake May. But
so
on his 3 pass attempts, 2 of his 2 completions, he was 2 for 3 for 17 yards. Those 2 completions were both behind the line of scrimmage, and the one time he threw past the line of scrimmage, it was incomplete. So
the wide receiver dropped it. I saw it, and the DB celebrated like they won the Super Bowl. He hit him in the chest. There's nothing he could do about that.
How many fantasy points do you get for a drop pass?
I don't care. It was raining out. If it was raining out, you'd look to pivot to another quarterback.
TJ would know well.
I just just teasing, just because I saw this.
I know.
That was a really funny play, like that DB, like.
Oh yeah, dude! Like
crazy.
He was jazzed about it.
Yeah,
almost like the flag football in Canton, man. Yeah. Like, dude, like we are in it. We are in it. Like, man, that pass was 10 yards out of bounds, dude. What are you celebrating for? Anyway. Michael Penix played 24 snaps. He went 9 for 16 for 104 yards. I didn't see much of his game film or anything like that, but like kind of not really looking too much into Penix until Kirk Cousins is not in Atlanta, or they say that Kirk isn't going to play, something along those lines. JJ looked generally good except for the interception that he threw, which is fine, learning experience on that one.
Yeah,
that's what the preseason's for. But now we have the knee thing. Bo Nix, 39 snaps, the most plays by far for anybody. 15 for 31, 131 yards, one touchdown, 3 rushes, and 17 yards. By the way, I saw the Marvin Mims touchdown, and you guys led me to I thought like he just like went off for this touchdown. That's like a 1 yard. Like that dude's just faster than everybody on the field. Come on,
Still
Ted
counts,
Ginn.
baby. Still counts,
Get
baby.
out of here.
Let's
Ted
go.
Ginn.
The one thing about
Ted
Marvin
Ginn.
Mims that was concerning was that basically the starting 3, he was not in it. It was Reynolds, Tim Patrick, and Cortland Sutton. And then Mims basically played like one play on that opening drive, and then he got in after some of those guys sat, which was a little eye-opening. It's something just to keep an eye on. I still think Mims is going to be fine, but just something to keep an eye on. That he's not running with.
Just remember this next year.
I know why. Listen, this is why it happened. Bo Nix is going to be the starter. Marvin Mims and Bo Nix. Sean Payton, he knows what he's doing. He wants to get that connection going. I think we're going to be just fine. Okay, listen, it's going to be all right. But yeah, I watched a lot of that game. I was in the airport. So Bo Nix, he looked very good, very poised, very very confident. He ran the ball well. He got out of bounds, didn't take hits. There's things that, of course, he's playing against the second and third stringers, but overall, he looked very good. 15 for 31 is not the greatest, but overall, it looked good. Throwing to guys that are probably not even going to be on the field when he plays is tough. So overall, to me, I think he looked pretty good.
He did look good. I am cautiously optimistic on Bo Nix. I think he was one of the more pro-ready quarterbacks coming in.
Yeah.
And I think he's in a great system to just run that offense.
I think it's kind of funny, like everyone was super big on JJ McCarthy, and all this stuff, and even Drake May. But I think at the end of the day, the one that's going to start, like I think from day one, is Bo Nix.
I agree.
Outside of Caleb and Jaden Daniels, right? Outside of those two guys, but overall, I think
those are the 3 that are going to start.
Yeah, I think, totally.
Yeah.
So
I agree as well. Don't worry about the chat.
Our YouTube chat is out of control. It's quite funny though. So
it's not being led by me, that's for sure. So let's move on to the Bears starting tight end. In concerning news for myself, I was such a big Cole Kmet guy. Looks like him and Everett are going to be in more so of a tight end rotation. Shane Waldron was with Gerald Everett in Seattle. I believe that Waldron was in LA when they drafted Everett too to the Rams. Holler, you can probably confirm that for me. But
I cannot.
You cannot. Okay,
but I do know Everett was on the Rams. I do know he was drafted by the Rams.
I think Waldron was there too at the same time.
He was the tight ends coach when he was there.
Okay,
interesting.
So Everett's been at every single stop with Waldron thus far in Waldron's career to this point, which really doesn't bode well for Kmet. But also like Roma Dunze, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, like were we expecting there to be much for the tight ends in Chicago? I wasn't. I had kind of already written Cole Kmet off as kind of dead.
So a little bit, just in that I was expecting of the target shares to the tight end that Cole Kmet was going to get like 80% of that. So I while it was going to be a smaller piece of the pie, I thought Kmet was getting basically all of it. Whereas now I do think there might be more of a split between Kmet and Everett, which is concerning. So I pulled up. So Shane Waldron has been an offensive coordinator for 3 years, and the tight end target distributions on the offense 20.2%, 25.2%, 17.76% this last year in Seattle. So it's not like they're getting a huge target share in general. And then you have those 3 good wide receivers. DeAndre Swift's a good pass catcher. If Everett and Kmet are straight up just like splitting, targets and snaps, I think that effectively renders both of them useless. So this is one I'm trying to keep. I'm not reacting to this news just yet. Like I'm still holding Cole Kmet where I have him. But if this kind of continues, especially let's say the first like 2-3 weeks of the season, and they are just on a rotation, like that's bad news, Bears. And so probably left holding the bag on Kmet.
Yeah. So I think I have him in a 2 tight end league, which I feel very bad about.
You gotta hold him there.
Yeah. So I just moved him in a it's an IDP league, so I only have one of those, but I just moved him, and I think I got Monty, Curtis Samuel, and I moved Those were like the highlights. And then I moved Komet and George Pickens. So I think it was a solid swap. There was also some other pieces. I think I got Tyler Conklin, and I got George Karlaftis, or whatever his name is. So I felt like it was solid. I was able to move off of Komet, and he was not my first tight end. He was my second tight end. So I felt like it was solid. But yeah, exactly what you said, Spanky. I think these guys are going to just kind of cancel each other out, especially because they're not going to get much of the pie anyway.
I will say, generally, this next week of preseason games is like the week before the final week of the preseason. They generally treat it as the dress rehearsal. So I think the Bears starters are going to play more, and so we'll get a better feel for what was the snap count during probably like the first half, right, between Komet and Everett, and then we can kind of make our decisions before we hit the panic button too quick. But it caught my attention for sure.
Yep.
And really before we started the episode, I should have gave the caveat that like all this stuff is kind of just stuff to monitor at the moment for me.
Yeah.
Like I'm not really moving up or down on any of this stuff really as of yet. Of course, if it confirms my priors, I'm super excited. But I'm trying to stay level headed about everything here. So the Commanders running back rotation, slightly troubling only because like I like B-Rob. B-Rob is a fine running back. And like that's just about it. And like, he got 6 snaps. He had 5 opportunities. Austin Eckler also had 5 snaps. He got the routes. Brian Robinson did not run a single route. That's the concerning part right there. And if B-Rob isn't going to get like all the volume as kind of a average to above average running back, like that's just not great for his fantasy outlook for sure, especially with a rushing quarterback who can just RPO it into the end zone himself.
The other concern too, so he's never been much of a pass catcher, but he did get a lot of goal line work. And with Jaden Daniels there, I worry that Daniels are going to take away some of those rushing touchdowns, or at least rushing opportunities in the red zone. And then it's like, what's left for Brian Robinson, right? Between the 20s kind of work, and then just he paves way, and then Eckler gets his third downs. And I think Brian Robinson might end up with a lot of those stat lines of like, there's 14 carries for like 68 yards, no touchdowns, no catches, or like 1 catch for 6 yards. And you're just like, well, that was fine, but that's not going to move the needle for you. Right. And then you're just going to be like, well, that didn't hurt me entirely, but it's not going to get you any wins either. So.
Yeah. Agreed.
So I'm the resident fantasy effect Brian Robinson lover. And, this was rough when I saw it, because last year, what I thought the upside was going to be last year, or what was the upside last year, was he was starting to get pass catching work, and he was actually catching the balls and actually doing well, right? And so this is unfortunate, and I thought Austin Eckler was kind of dead in the water, and so for them to use him a bit more, I was a little concerning. And maybe they're using him more and saving Brian Robinson, but I don't think that's the case, So, and especially
it feels like a 50, 50-50.
And I did. I did have more caution when Jaden Daniels came on, and I'm not as like excited for Brian Robinson as I was last year, but I'm going to stand firm as being the resident fantasy effect Brian Robinson lover. And I think he's a really solid like RB3 with a little bit of running back 2 upside. That's the cap for me. And like I've been the Brian Robinson, the one kind of banging the table on him, but he's never been a guy that I thought was like, oh, this greatest running back. He's just, like you said, Ron, does things fine.
Real quick on Brian Robinson, holler, mid 2 or Brian Robinson?
Probably a mid 2 at this rate.
Okay. Late 2 or Brian Robinson?
I'll give me Brian Robinson. That's kind of like the cutoff right there.
Same. At that point, give me 0.
That's how I feel too.
Let me see where I have him before. Yeah, that's where I have him. Yeah, I'll take exactly what I said.
Okay, cool. Titans running back rotation. This is probably going to be a total split. Tony Pollard and Tyjae Spears feel exactly the same. That's how I felt about it since they signed Tony Pollard to the Titans. It kind of felt odd to me. He did look spry in the preseason game, which we didn't see last year.
He did. I think I caution saying this, but I think there's a little more upside with Tajay Spears. I just like him a little bit more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think they're going to be a 50-50, and it's just going to really depend on what drive what it feels. I think they're going to be really, really hard to play in fantasy overall.
I disagree a little bit, only because I think this is what Tony Pollard needs, right? He needs to be kind of in that 1A, 1B kind of role. And that's where, because I think what suffered the most was last year is like it just took a toll on his body, right?
Yeah.
And I just don't think he looked the same. And he didn't have any explosive plays. He had all the volume, but the explosion wasn't there, right? The quickness wasn't there. If he goes down, he cuts his workload down significantly, and we replace that with like a bunch of explosive plays like he had in Dallas 2 years ago. I think he's actually more valuable than he was last year as he was getting on that volume, right? I think, and I think it's going to be a good offense. I think it's a deceptively good offense in Tennessee, and I think there's going to be room for both of them to do well.
Yeah, what I mean by like hard to play is just you don't know who's going to get the touchdowns. You don't know, but at the end of the day, I think they both will be solid flex plays. So they're better options than some other ones, obviously. But I just mean in general, like it's going to be tough to kind of rely on. Oh, I feel really good about playing this guy this week or whatever.
Yeah, I don't think I'd ever feel good about playing either one, but I would feel like, all right, well, at least I know he's going to get some touches, this week, and get that opportunity between the two of them, actually.
Exactly.
I think you can play both of them, and at least as like a low end
fine.
RB2, and I think you'll be okay.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on here to JSN. I have never been a JSN guy. This is pretty concerning. All the starters rested for the Seahawks. That means Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, not that they need to get out there in the preseason. Kenneth Walker was on the bench. Gino was on the bench. Jackson Smith and Jigba played 22 snaps in a preseason game. Is this to get him more experience, or
depends how you want to spend this?
Right. We can spin it either way.
Here's the thing. So he was on the field more than you would like when the team is resting their starters, and then the usage was also still bad, right? Like in the same tweet that we pulled that up, like he had an 8 out of 6 yards, which is not awesome, right? So it's pretty still close to the line of scrimmage type of stuff. So
better than before.
It's hard to be any worse than that. You got to go Rondale Moore negative.
But man, it's increasingly harder to defend JSN the more information we get, and the more he plays and doesn't do anything.
Yeah, I think he's firmly in that wide receiver 3. Everyone's like, oh, just wait till Tyler Lockett leaves, or just wait till he gets a little bit older, but he continually is playing above JSN and playing much better than JSN. So I just don't think we can kind of defend it much longer. This is rough. And same thing with he's not on here, but same thing with Charbonnet. I think it's firmly going to be a running back 1, running back 2. Like I thought maybe last year it'd be more of like a split, but no, the Seahawks are really hyping up Kenneth Walker, and so I definitely think Zach Charbonnet is just going to come in as that change of pace guy, get a little bit in there.
So I have an interesting thing here for you. So JSN, his market's still pretty high. So some guys directly around him, you just tell me who you want, JSN or Jordan Addison?
Addison.
McConkey or JSN?
Lad. That's not even a question.
Lad for me.
Brian Thomas or JSN?
I'll even take Brian Thomas at this point.
Yeah, I don't love Brian Thomas, but I'll take Brian Thomas.
Mike Evans or JSN?
Oh, Mike.
That's going to be very roster dependent.
I'll take Mike Evans.
Just choose one. Let's say your roster's fine. Okay. You want Mike?
I'll take Mike Evans if my roster's fine, and I think I'm hitting the playoffs.
Okay. Joe Mixon or JSN? Last one.
Jason.
Same thing with the rosters, but Joe Mixon.
See, I think so too. But those are the guys directed. He's in between like those guys. So like Mixon and Evans were below him, and then the first 3 guys I said were right above him. So his market's still crazy. I mean, let's not Dude, is it time to sell? Is it time to get out? Like, because realistically, if he keeps playing like this another year, he's dead on your roster. He's basically another
Right.
Jalen Reagor, and you're SOL.
I have tried to move the few JSN shares that I wound up with, and it has been a struggle to do.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to lowball you for them. They want them for cheap, but they don't want to give up anything that we're talking about, basically. I don't know that his value is really sitting right there where around those guys, especially the young guys that you listed off. I could see getting, those vets for JSN.
Sure.
And if those vets are sitting on a rebuilding roster, that's kind of why I had the question, because if it's on a rebuilder and I'm not the biggest JSN fan, but I'll just take the youth at that point to just maybe hope and pray and cross my fingers on if I can't get a pick.
Yep.
That's fair.
Spanky, were you pulling some of those trades up on Dynasty Daddy? Or just guys that were around him?
I just pulled guys that were around him.
So there's been a couple trades. One here, there's two that I really wanted to highlight here. Mike Evans for JSN and 25 third, and then another one was JSN and CJ Stroud for Kyler Murray and Brandon Ayuk. For the one with Kyler Murray and Ayuk, I like that one a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
another one. Mike Evans and Isaiah Likely for JSN.
See, I do that, Mike Evans.
So
if I can get a plus on Mike Evans, I'll do that.
And Isaiah Likely, in 2 PPR for tight end. Oh my goodness.
Yep.
Okay. The Ravens running back 2 battle is seemingly over. I'm in shambles. I spent all my time this offseason drafting Rasheen Ali late in rookie drafts, and it seems like he's been outplayed by this character, Owen Wright. Didn't even know this guy was on the roster until this tweet came out.
So one thing I want to say about Ali is I feel like I kind of bought in a little bit as well, but I just feel like Justice Hill is not going anywhere. So he was still going to be, I think, the running back 3. And so I do know they rotate guys in. And then there's also
Keaton Mitchell when he gets back.
Keaton Mitchell, right? Mm-hmm. So there's so many mouths to feed over there in the running back room, and then Lamar Jackson runs the ball. So I just think overall Rasheen Ali had a tough.
So I just don't think that Justice Hill or Keaton Mitchell can go between the tackles. Is what I think about them. So I think at least that.
But that's what Derrick Henry's
work. Well, right, but this is Rasheen Ali is a pick in Derrick Henry insurance kind of thing. Is the way I was kind of looking at it. Going to be the between the tackles banger, going to fall across the goal line if anything were to happen. But it didn't work out that way, unfortunately.
Bethesda. What the heck is Bethesda? That's I'm assuming a school.
That's a place. The Bethesda native. Bethesda, Maryland.
Yeah,
Google,
he played at
boom, bam, pow.
Okay.
Cities, Jeopardy.
That was a lot. Not on my bingo card for what we were going to talk about tonight.
Yeah.
No, it was not. So anyway, the hottest man in the preseason, Tank Bigsby, averaging 9.3 yards per carry.
Look good.
45-yard kickoff return. The only strong caution I have is a lot of people have brought it up in the chat in the Discord is he looked really good last year too, and preseason and training camp as well. So I'm trying to stay calm about Tank this year and just bide my time. But I'm hoping he's got the ball security issues under control. He's earned some trust. And we'll see what happens. I'm excited though. I'm excited to see what Tank does this year again.
That's what I was gonna say is the one thing I haven't seen, and I'm crossing my fingers I don't see, is I haven't seen him fumble the ball yet, or I haven't heard any reports about him having ball security issues, which is the whole reason he got in the doghouse. So if he can hang on to the football, he has talent, right? That's never been a question. It's just the coaches didn't trust him. So it seems like hopefully that's behind him. And then I know they don't want to overload Travis Etienne like they did last year. And so Tank Bigsby is going to have a nice little role. I think he'll have some standalone volume. And then if anything, it does happen to Etienne, he could very easily be the guy. And
to the moon, baby.
Let's go.
Games, at least.
Yeah. Right. Okay. And last but not least, it seems that the Kamani Vidal situation has finally ended. Yeah, it sounds like Jarrett Patterson has been repping above him. Kabani Vidal did not even get to suit
He
up
didn't even
for
dress.
for a preseason game in a situation where he's probably on trying to get those carries, get into that roster spot. Doesn't look good there for him.
Yep, I think that situation. He was a long shot to make the roster as a 6th round pick to begin with. He has had no positive buzz. It's been all negative in camp, and so I think those dreams are dead. And that's the thing. Is like as much as we want, the next, James Robinson or the next Puka Nacua in your 3rd, 4th round rookie drafts, like sometimes they don't work out. And now, now it's like, okay, those dreams are dead. Now he's roster fodder, right? You just cut him and pick up one of these guys who actually is, making a name and try again.
Yep. Reroll.
I'll spin it positive here real quick. Sorry, Holler. Jarrett Patterson was that guy in Washington at one point when he was, a 3rd, 4th round pick where people were, thinking, maybe he gets a shot and if he gets on the field, he could do some things. This was quite a while ago. I can't remember exactly when he was drafted, but I remember him being like one of these guys too. Go ahead, Holler.
And I don't. Since they drafted him, I don't know for sure if they'll just go out and cut him. He maybe is a practice guy, a practice team guy, and you don't know. But really, it's not good if you're not getting that first, not even going to dress in that first game. That's really not good. And so, unfortunately, my 15 shares are in shambles. But it's okay. 3rd round. I mean, most of the time I think I got him in the 4th round. So it's like if you take shots in the 4th round. I mean, it's not the end of the day or end of the world. Excuse me.
Yeah. You guys got any big thoughts, any parting words of wisdom for anybody?
Just some of these things that we brought up. Keep an eye on this upcoming week of games. This is usually when teams do like their kind of dress rehearsal and the starters play about a quarter and a half, maybe even a full half. So just keep an eye on what the offenses look like this week, and that's when you can kind of get some of your bigger takeaways on what some of these players' roles are going to be.
Yes, sir. Great. And if you weren't here in the beginning, Patreon. We will be having a Patreon. Yes. It's coming to you soon.
Super exciting.
Let's go.
All right. Peace out, guys.
See you guys.